Hey, it's Steph. How are you? We're halfway through the year. It's mid-July. What do you want to do with the rest of your year? Okay, today's guest is a wonderful person, filmmaker, screenwriter, boxer, and boxing coach. At 5'1", she is tiny and tough and transparent. I admire Jill Morley for many reasons. Foremost among them is her willingness to share some of the things that she has lived and experienced in her life as a means to help others. As you know, when someone has the courage to be vulnerable and honest, as Jill does, it gives us all a reminder that we can own our life experiences without shame, without judgment. And in doing so, the person who chooses to be open is often doing that as a means to be free. In today's interview, we talk about the very autobiographical documentary film Jill made called Fight Like a Girl. Before this interview, I told Jill how much I admired that she let herself be seen. She told me it was scary, but she felt like she had to be truthful because that is the kind of artist she wants to be. Specifically, she said she wanted to shed light on mental illness and how boxing helped her overcome and battle depression, so that maybe it could help other people. Some of the content may be triggering for some listeners, particularly those of you who have suffered abuse. So please do whatever you need to do to take good care of yourself. Real quick before we start, a special thank you to those of you who support the podcast on Patreon and for helping me keep this going. You can be a patron too for a monthly $1, $3, $10, and up, whatever feels good. Visit patreon.com/anotherdooropens and select an option there. If you subscribed, rated, or reviewed on Apple Podcasts, thank you too. I value hearing from you because you guys, this podcast is for you. It's about opening our hearts and minds to people, ideas, and the world around us so that we can all live our lives with a little more ease and grace, care more, judge less, be better humans. This interview sort of starts by me telling Jill that I first saw her image on a movie poster at the boxing gym as the filmmaker behind Fight Like a Girl. Here is Jill Morley. You have been fascinating to me since the moment I met you, and I actually met the Jill Morley on the poster before I met you, the Jill Morley in real life, because I saw it on the wall at the gym, and a mutual friend of ours, Vanessa Gibbons, was telling me I needed to meet you, and I'm so glad that I finally was able to.
Oh, me too.
I like to begin because of being mid-year 2021 and all that 2020 was. I just like to ask how people are doing. How are you doing?
Me, I am doing pretty well, but I am an introvert and what do? I write and I teach boxing. So the difference was I was teaching boxing on Zoom, but I still stay home and write. So it wasn't a huge change of life pace, except that I missed seeing my friends. And I really felt for people who lost their jobs, for the businesses, I'm very empathetic. It was hard for me to see everyone going through such a rough time. But me, myself, I'm very blessed. I live in a house with my husband. I have a backyard, and he didn't lose his job. I lost mine for a while, but it was okay, How about you?
Doing well. Mine was gone for a while too, but you know what? I gave birth to a podcast.
Yes. There you go.
It was during the pandemic that I thought, I want to take this idea, Another Door Opens, which isn't leaving me, so I'm supposed to pay attention to it. That's how I digest that. And I had done a blog by the same name with the same focus. And then I self-published a book by the same name. And then I thought, you know what? This is the time to bring this to life in a way that more people can consume it. And I think podcasts are just so accessible these days. It's easier to listen to when you're on a walk or in a car. So yeah, I decided to try to do something constructive. That's not to say I was ultimately constructive in every area. There's certain areas, particularly boxing and working out, that definitely disappeared, frankly, during that time. And I'm just now starting to get back. But I'm doing well. We're doing well.
Good. I think that happened to a lot of people. I know I had people in my Zoom classes in the beginning. I had a ton of people and then a bunch just dropped off. And I think part of it was just, Zoom, right?
Right.
And then just not having person to person contact and all that stuff. And just, not everyone, like, I know I need to work out in order for my brain to work,
Yes, me too.
So if I don't do it, I get depressed, I get foggy, stuff like that. So I'm not in fight shape, but I'm in good shape for me, for anyone, I guess.
Good. And yeah, that is such a key piece. It's my peace of mind. And when it's been part of your life, whatever your form of exercise is that gets you there, to be without it is really unnerving and it's anxiety inducing. And so I'm glad that some semblance of that normalcy has started to come back, at least into my world.
Yeah, and mine too. I'm teaching an in-person class at a gym. I'm doing a ton of privates and semi-privates and hosting a sparring class and all that stuff is happening. It's just so good to see people and watch them get better. That's always exciting. And see them get confidence from what I'm teaching them,
Yeah, well, I think that's a good segue to sort of how I like to open every conversation. And that is, what do the words "another door opens" mean to you, if anything?
For me, another door opens. I feel like that happens all throughout your life in micro ways, even if it's like, oh, I didn't get into the college I wanted to go to. I didn't make this team, So I think there's that. I think it's just prevalent and it's just a day, even just, do you have any Cheerios? No. Well, I guess I'll have an omelet, it's just, you just have to make choices. Your life is about making choices. And sometimes the choices you want to make are not available to you. And then that's where you have to figure out what you're going to do. You can stomp your feet. You could go do drugs, you could take another option that might not be what you wanted, but just try to go with it and be as zen about it as you can, because that's what's there right now,
Yeah.
And I do believe in creating your own reality and creative visualization and all this. But I know when I was trying to create something when I was young, I had a one-person show. I wanted it to go off Broadway. I visualized. Finally, it was about to go off Broadway. And through no fault of my own, the financing fell through, and it wound up not happening. And then I took it hard. And I took it so hard that I regret now that I didn't bounce back sooner. So for me, another door opens means just to be present and just take advantage of the opportunities that are at hand for you today.
I like that. And I like the recovering faster part. That's something that I've been very mindful of this past year. I think I'm a person who has held on to hurt or disappointment too long in the past. And I think that's a really healthy thing. I'm glad you brought that up because I think we all need reminders of those things as well. I want to talk to you today about boxing, about screenwriting, about your creativity, and maybe how they intersect as well. And so since you just talked about what you're doing these days and coaching and teaching masters boxing, why don't we start there? What are you doing and why did you decide to do it?
Well, I started teaching boxing because I know a lot of women at the time were looking for coaches, and the coaches they weren't reliable. They wouldn't show up for them, or I'd see they weren't learning things that I think they should learn. They're getting into bad habits. So I thought, well, okay, I'll show them what I know. Not that I'm the boxing expert. However, I've had some really good coaches and I'm a total boxing nerd. I'm on YouTube all the time learning another move. So while I may not have executed things as a world champion pro, I certainly study the sport and I'm good with people and patient and make them feel good, which is really the biggest part of the job.
Yes. It's huge.
So I got into teaching them because I'm like, well, they're not teaching them defense. Like that's horrible. Now she's going to go in the ring and get hit and quit. So I'd work with them on that. And then I started getting more people here and there. And I have one boxer in particular. Her name is Ivy. And she's the one that's has fought in the amateurs and won the novice Golden Gloves and recovering from a back injury now, but she's the one that has been with me the longest. And I think people who've seen me work with her, now I'm getting more people. And then also when people find out how old I was when I started boxing, which was 40, they get excited because there's something in them Like there's a bug in them now where they want to do this fight and they see that it's possible. And obviously it's not about money or being a pro or looking cool. I mean, I know I'm sure the younger people laugh at the masters boxers,
FYI, the masters are amateurs who are over 35 years old.
35 and over, usually 40. And I mean over, I've seen 70-year-old men fighting.
Wow. Are these amateur fights like they put on the headgear and actually compete?
Yeah, they're sanctioned amateur fights under USA Boxing, and they're called Masters Boxing. And they wear 16-ounce gloves, bigger headgear, and the rounds are 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
So it's kind of something to do, like if you really like challenging yourself and you really want to see what it would be like to have a fight and to be in a fight. And it also gives you a goal. It, keeps you in great shape for a while. For me, I did it long enough, 10 years on and off. Now I really need to focus my time on the things that are going to, like my mind and my head, and not getting concussions. And I do love the sport. I love teaching people stuff. I love even just a little sparring where I can work a move and see that it still works, something like that. But the real joy, I guess, is seeing other people getting better and better and better. And, I can't wait to be in their corner for their first fight ever. What an experience.
And coaching is not brand new to Jill. She previously did a different kind of coaching. She taught tennis. This after playing Division I tennis at Villanova University, and at the same time earning a bachelor's in theater and communications there. And what do you see happen to some of the people who come in and maybe haven't had much exposure to boxing and practicing using boxing techniques, getting that catharsis that happens? What have you witnessed from the people that you have sort of brought up through the sport?
Well, I think the biggest and best story of that is I trained this woman named Sayer, and she had some things in her past, let's just say. And she would dream at night that she was being attacked. Like a waking sleep, she would see a man behind the curtains who would come and try to like kill her. And this would happen a lot. And it was frightening as hell for her.
Yeah.
She said once we'd been boxing for a while and she felt confident, she stopped having those nightmares.
Wow.
So it's a powerful thing. It's just, she knows she's strong. She knows she's powerful. She knows she's got also, like, we have a really great community of people. I mean, and it goes around. It's like you and Vanessa. And like, I didn't spend much time with you guys, but I feel like we're all part of this, network of women in boxing, and to be a part of that is also powerful.
And what do you think it is about women and boxing and confidence?
I could give you a different answer every day, but today let's go with boxing is traditionally known as a man's sport, right? Mm-hmm. And back in the day when we would try to participate, we were not welcome. Now it's changed. I think we're a lot more welcome in most gyms, I'd say. But then to start feeling that power and that strength, and it's also this repetition, right? It's constant repetition every day. I think I heard of an expression called repetition compulsion, which I think really good boxers have, where you have to do it every day a lot, Oh,
you feel compelled to do that repetition.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I mean, I don't think I have it bad, but I think the really good boxers do. Mm-hmm. And especially if you have a fight, it's like, well, I need to do this, this, and this in order to win my fight, right?
Right. It's like building a foundation of fundamentals.
Yeah. And why that might sound, I need to knock on the wall 3 times before I open the door. It's like, no, this actually makes sense. You have to hit the bag if you have to spar, because if you don't, and the other guy's worked out more than you and knows more than you, you're in trouble. And I think just getting stronger and hitting those pads, that feeling, like I just love seeing someone's face after they've hit the pad, they've made it a really loud smack, A lot of people, women usually, they just don't know their power, physical power, If you've never turned into a right hand before, it's going to be like, oh my goodness, I'm a lot stronger than what I thought.
Yeah. You mentioned a minute ago that you came to boxing later in life. You started when you were 40. How did you first become interested in boxing? And when did you first decide that you actually wanted to get in the ring?
I've always been interested in boxing. Like I remember when that movie Shadow Boxers came out in the 90s and I watched it and I was like, oh, I wish I could do that. But I didn't know where women did it or how they did it. And plus at the time I was an actress and I was performing a show weekly, and I figured I couldn't show up with a black eye one day, So after that, I remember I always took exercise classes, boxing classes. And I remember running into a woman who I found out she was going to fight in the Golden Gloves. And I thought, wow, that's amazing.
And just for the listeners who don't know what the Golden Gloves is, what is that?
Well, in New York, it was a big tournament. I mean, it happens in many cities, but in New York at this time, it was a huge tournament where everyone in New York, like Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, all the boxers come and participate in this huge tournament. And the finals are held at Madison Square Garden. And if you win, you get a big, heavy pair of gold gloves. That's like a necklace. And like the people who wear it around, you're like, ooh, look at them,
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone wants one of those, or even a silver pair would be amazing. So that's what that tournament is. And at the time I was 40, but I lied about my age on my birth certificate so I could fight in the regular amateurs. So I was fighting with they could be my kids,
I think I might have seen in your film, which we'll get to, Fight Like a Girl, a 6 was changed to a 7. Am I right?
Yeah.
1966 was changed to 1976.
Exactly. Which right now, that's still old, right?
So there was an age limit for the Golden Gloves and you were already above it. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But I felt like I'm like, I don't feel old.
Yeah.
I felt pretty fit. I'd been doing Taekwondo, which was a lot of kicks.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we sparred in Taekwondo, I wanted to throw punches and they got mad at me because I hit hard. And so they told me everyone else is allowed to throw punches, but me, I could only throw kicks. So finally I'm like, screw this. I'm going to box.
There you go. You can use your hands all day.
Yeah. And then I learned that there were so many other things involved that would take me 10 years to learn.
So we turned here to a documentary film that Jill wrote, directed, and starred in, which I mentioned, is called Fight Like a Girl. You can find it on Amazon and other places. It is powerful. We're going to talk about it. So I wanted to know if Jill's interest in filmmaking or boxing came first.
It's funny because when people are like, oh, this boxer made a movie, it's like, yeah, I was writing for 20 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to New York when I was 22 and I was an actress and a writer. I was producing shows and writing for different periodicals and for different, short story anthologies and things like that. Actually, a lot of things did not go my way. Another door opens.
Mm-hmm.
So the show that I said I'd written and was about to go off Broadway did not happen. And I went into a very deep depression. It was hard for me to recover from that. And then in the film I was making a documentary called Strip. 2 of the women, one went missing and the other one died from complications of plastic surgery. And they were my friends. And it was just a lot. And then at that time, too, I was introduced to drugs, which is crazy. I should have done drugs when I was young, like everyone else. But no, I did them in my 30s, and then I got hung up on that for a little while. So I was still writing and doing stuff, but I wasn't trying to take on big things like the way I do now, like making a film, writing a screenplay, things like that. I just felt like I couldn't handle it. I wasn't in the head for it. That's the thing that I think I'm most upset that I didn't just take it easier. Now I realize oh, this happens to everyone in the business. Things are about to go and they don't go, But at the time I didn't have that experience. I thought there was something wrong with me or I was cursed because I had other things kind of fall through.
And do you want to talk about those early projects at all? The play you wrote, which was called True Confessions of a Go-Go Girl, and then I believe it's a documentary Strip that you just mentioned. Do you want to talk about those at all?
Sure. True Confessions of a Go-Go Girl. So when I was in New York and I was doing my acting and my writing, I was trying to figure out different ways to make money. And I kept getting fired from waitressing jobs because I was horrible. And then I started catering, but the catering jobs run out in the summer, Mm-hmm. And then I asked my friend, well, what do you do? And she told me she go-go dances at a sports bar in Hackensack,
New Jersey. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I thought that sounded hilarious. And I went with her one day and I watched her and it was very innocent. It was a day shift, Guys are like, also, it's a sports bar, so they're also watching TV. I mean, it was just really crazy. And she made, and that day made maybe $150, $200, which to us at that time was a decent amount of money. I mean, it was like a dive bar. And so I started doing that. And then then I started doing the night shifts at different places, and I started discovering the best material I ever found in my life, which was people in New Jersey go-go bars. A lot of the different women that did it, the men, it was like a crazy characters and funny, especially in the beginning. But then once I started to feel the pull of, let's say, feeling like they wanted more from me than just my dancing on the stage, that's when it started to get darker. And when I quit, and that's also when I started making the film Stripped. And Stripped is about how difficult it is to get out of stripping. And I found 4 different women who were trying to get out or who were at the end of it. And like I said, one of them went missing and one of them died from complications from plastic surgery. And that was like a really rough one. Back to True Confessions, though, when I wrote the play, it actually wound up doing really well. I produced it myself. I started getting, just because by nature it was Go-Go Girl, it was different, I got people coming in and reviews, and I was getting good reviews. It just kept building and building. And then I had someone interested in pitching it as a feature. So I met with like Jodie Foster's company, and I met Universal and Castle Rock and all this. Like, I was flown out to LA, like all these almost amazing things happened to me. And then they didn't happen, Then I was like, well, I'll just go off Broadway. I'm not, screw Hollywood, and I'll just do the play. And then that didn't work out. And then my friends, in the making of those films, my friends died.
I wondered if Jill had any outlet during that time when such dark things were happening and when she was feeling so low.
I didn't really have one. I mean, I had friends, I mean, I had to keep dancing. I didn't have to keep dancing, but I chose to keep dancing through some of it. It was almost like punishment. Like I knew I didn't like it anymore. And it was almost like I was punishing myself for not being successful.
Gosh.
Yeah. And I didn't know that at the time.
Right. And all of this predates Fight Like a Girl. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I wasn't boxing.
Yeah.
No, this was all in my 20s and then early 30s. And then by early 30s, I just felt so beaten down from trying to do things and having them fall flat. I just was like, and fell into some drug use. But I was still writing. I was writing for the New York Press and other little papers here and there. But like I said, I wasn't like, it was like I just kept getting thrown to the canvas, thrown to the canvas, thrown to the canvas, thrown to the canvas, And I always eventually get back up. But back then, especially, I just, I hit a big bad depression and couldn't get up for a long time.
But you got up.
I did. I mean, I met my husband and he did Muay Thai. And so I went to his gym, and this is after doing Taekwondo. So I did the Muay Thai, and that was kind of fun. And then I met 2 of the women who boxed as well. So when I started meeting the women who boxed, I was like, wait, how do you do this? And can I possibly do this? I've always wanted to do it. And at that point, that was my another door opens.
Yeah.
That was my, okay, well, I'm getting like screwed over in everything I try to do. Maybe I should just box without knowing, where that would take me, which, as you, from seeing the film, where it took me to a really super dark place. But after that, I just feel like I do feel liberated after that.
Oh, Fight Like a Girl is a very close-up look at boxing and the obstacles fighters meet inside and outside the ring. And you reveal a lot of personal details in this story. And I just want to ask, why did you want to tell this story? And was it a learning process for you to allow yourself to be seen?
Originally, I wanted to just use myself as a guide into the other women's lives, right? As boxers, and show you really who they were and be a conduit. But because of what happened, I had basically I guess a mental breakdown kind of a thing. Then I wound up being in it more. And as I told you, it's just like, I felt like, wow, well, if I left that out, I would be lying. So basically, for all the sparring brought up post-traumatic stress disorder that I had from being abused as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like even see things in the ring that weren't there. I would have nightmares. And I was told I should stop sparring. I'm like, no, I have to, I'm training for this fight. I didn't stop. And then, my mind just took over and I thought, I was driving to my therapist and I got lost and I thought that it was a sign to kill myself. Like, that's how crazy.
Mm.
And I guess I made a lame attempt and wound up in the mental hospital and then came to the reality of what that was and what that meant to the people I loved and what was I doing?
I thought your film was so brave. I thought you were so brave to show that, like you said, to be really real with the viewers. In this film, your own struggles with mental health are revealed and possibly what they may stem from. Was it helpful for you to bring this topic to a wider audience? Did you have a knowing inside that you weren't alone in this type of suffering and maybe it would help somebody else?
Yeah. I mean, I know I'm not alone. And I also know like other people have had it way worse than me. And I don't mean to be one of those, everyone's had it worse.
And I want to be clear. I'm definitely not diminishing. I just want to say, did you feel like you want to help other people through this?
I did. I mean, that was my goal was to help other people through this. Otherwise, why do it unless it was a big pity party, which I did not want, know? I mean, that was my big fear was having it be, is this just like a wah, I can't fight, wah, I was a kid when I was a kid.
Oh, it does not feel like that. It feels so rich.
Oh, thanks. Because I know I don't feel like that. I know like I felt like, well, I got over it through talk therapy, I thought, and I don't feel bad about myself. I feel good. I feel like I have agency, you know? And I wanted to show, I guess, other people who've been through similar things that they can have agency too. They can go through those things. And again, like they can go through things worse than me and come out higher than me, But if I could be a part of that narrative, I wanted to be.
It was very powerful. It was also beautiful. And it was really, really, really well done. I have to ask you about the underwater scene where you replicate the Muhammad Ali scene or photograph. Can you tell me about that? What inspired you to do that? And I want to say that was such a powerful way to illustrate a struggle.
Oh, thank you. I know that when I was sparring and I would get hit, I would go into I felt like I was drowning.
Oh.
I felt like I couldn't, even my punches were like, I was pawing. It was like I was moving in slow motion and I couldn't breathe,
Oh.
And rather than show like abuse, I thought, let me show you what it feels like. And maybe you can feel like it too. And it was this feeling of drowning,
Oh, that was so effective. And also visually powerful, but also emotionally powerful. As a viewer, you can feel it. You can feel it. Did you shoot that in New York?
Actually, that scene we shot at my friend's pool in LA.
Wow.
Yeah, in Tarzana. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm glad you liked it. I mean, I still feel a little weird about it because, as you said, I put so much of myself out there. And I don't expect everyone to be like, oh, that was really good, and to have your kind of response,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of don't want to hear the other responses though, because I was so raw in that. I was hoping it would get a better platform or be more widely received. And it wasn't. And I think that's partially because of, at the time, people were saying, oh, we don't want to see women fighting, all this stuff. And, I didn't have a budget for that and all that stuff. But now I'm happy anyone watches. I mean, I still get emails when people watch it,
I bet.
from people. There's a lot of women who come from abusive backgrounds who take up some sort of fighting sport and they experience the same things as I did. And they're so happy to know that, you can get out of it and that someone else has gone through it.
Are you working on any new screenplays at the moment?
Yeah, I'm working on a screenplay called See Jane Fight.
Ooh, I like the title.
Well, it's a little semi-autobiographical. It's about a young woman who wants to be a professional MMA fighter. And her mother was a champion kickboxer. but she got hooked on pain pills and is abusive to her daughter. And so Jane has to overcome that trauma and also the fact that her mother's an addict and kind of break out of it in order to succeed.
And you said it's semi-autobiographical?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know what, when you're a writer, you just write, like you're in every character, you're in everything, you know? Yes. So, I mean, it's just, I understood all the feelings this girl goes through in the film, but it's not my experience.
Is it something that you're writing and producing and shooting?
No, thank God I'm not doing that anymore.
Okay.
No, I have actually a producer attached and a director attached. I think they're going out and trying to raise money to get it made now.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
What are you excited about doing now? And just keeping the theme of doors opening, what doors are you working on opening these days? What do you want to happen for yourself going forward?
Well, now I really have gotten, in the last 5 years, I've gotten into screenwriting and really learning that craft. I have a couple of other screenplays that I'm working on. And I just want to get, it's another thing I want to get really good at, I'm not there yet. So I need to keep working at it. And just, of course, training the masters. And like, we have a fight in Vegas in September. That's going to be fun, working the corners of these guys, these, men and women for their first fight ever,
That's huge. Oh.
Yeah. And they're doing it in Vegas, which is amazing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Just being a part of that is really great. I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. I'm writing and I'm boxing.
Super excited for Jill and her fighters to make their debut in Vegas very soon. Before I ask you the final question, I want to ask where people can find your film, find anything that you want them to know about, and your social media online.
Okay, well, Fight Like a Girl is on Amazon. It's also on a YouTube channel called Real Life or something like that. Anyway, you can just Google it. It'll come up. Mm-hmm. My Instagram is at Jill Morley. Everything's at Jill Morley.
Okay. That's convenient.
Yeah, I got in there before all the other Jill Morleys, so it was really good.
So the final question I wanted to ask is, if you could give some advice to your younger self, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing is just to let it roll off your back more. Like, it's not you, it's just how things are falling around you right now. And the more resilient you are, the better things happen for you, I think.
I like that.
Because if you dwell in that negativity of, my show didn't happen. And, if you dwell on it, it's just going to keep sucking you in. Whereas if you can move past it, it's like, oh, look, I'm writing this new thing now and I'm meeting these great people and, I'm going to a beautiful place and I'm eating delicious food. You just try to find the joy in every day and every moment, that you can.
What a great message to end on. Find the joy in every day. Jill, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie.
Jill Morley, thank you for being a fighter of all kinds in the very best way. If you know someone who needs to change things up and explore a new form of exercise, maybe boxing training is for you, regardless of age. Make sure you follow Jill online at Jill Morley on social media and visit her website at jillmorley.com. That's JILLMORLEY.com. I'll be posting a few pictures related to this episode on my social media pages, like always. So follow on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Himango and at PodcastADO. If you want to, take a second to share this episode with someone and rate and review it on Apple. To my Patreon supporters, thank you again for believing in the power of story and supporting the show. If you're interested in becoming a patron too, you can go to patreon.com/anotherdooropens to find out some of the options there, starting at $1 a month. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Those Another Door Opens drum beats were made by the amazing Eric Brown. And that is this week's episode of the Another Door Opens podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Think about how you can practice opening in your life today, and I'll do the same. I'll see you next time. Love you. Bye.